Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. Today we're talking about org-wide defaults in Salesforce, which is kind of the first or the second, really, level of record level sharing. So when we're talking about sharing in Salesforce and we're talking about record level sharing, it's basically what individual records can everyone see. So, all right, maybe you shouldn't be able to see all leads. You should only be able to see leads that come from the website. All right, but any leads that come from the phone or that come from Facebook, you shouldn't be able to see those. You should only be able to see leads that come from the website. Now, if this was the case, then we can't set this up in a profile because a profile just says leads, yes, no. All right, so it's a pretty brutal approach. It's like all or nothing. Whereas if we want to get more granular, if we want to get a bit more detailed, then we have to go into some more complicated settings in Salesforce, and org-wide defaults is one of those. So to find your org-wide defaults, you first need to search up sharing settings up here, and in your sharing settings, you're going to find your org-wide default kind of options here. All right, and what the org-wide defaults is saying is by default, can everyone in the org see everything for each object? All right, so if we have a look at the lead, let's just read this together so we understand what this is. The lead, we're saying the default internal access is public read, write, transfer. So that means that by default, everyone in this Salesforce org can see every other lead. They can also edit every other lead, and they can transfer so they can change the ownership of every other lead. So the default setting is that everyone can see everyone else's leads, everyone can edit everyone else's leads, and everyone can transfer ownership from everyone else's leads. This means that if we wanted to close down these settings later on, we'd have a really tough time because this is the default access. All right, so you kind of you can't give any more access than public read write. All right, everyone can see everything else. So that's the baseline that we're starting at for our leads. Let's have a look. For our contact, we have controlled by parent, and this means that it is probably controlled by the account because the account sits on top and the contact is kind of related underneath it. Because you can have one account and then multiple contacts associated to that. So whatever the account settings are, that's what the contact settings are too. So this is public read write, which means that our contact is also going to be public read write. We don't have very many private ones, I'm noticing. Activities are private, all right? Private means that only the person who created it can see it, or only the person who owns it can see it. That's what private means. So these are our org-wide defaults. If you wanted to change anything here, you can click edit. So let's say that we're not too happy with these leads being public read write. Well, we won't make them private. So that the default is that everyone can only see their own leads. All right. Maybe that's not what your company wants to do, but for this example here, we're going to go for it. So you can save this. And a great way to test this out is to actually go ahead and create a second user in Salesforce. And then log in as that user. Just use another email that you have. Log in as that user and see if you can see any leads. Chances are you're not going to be able to because they're all owned by the first user, which would be your initial account. So it's a really good way to test this out and to have a look. All right. Org-wide defaults are important. The thing to realize here is that we also have something called restriction rules. And restriction rules are a way where we can say, all right, well, it's public read write for everyone, but we're going to restrict it for these certain people. So the certain person can't see leads of these particular types. So restriction rules are really useful. And if you want to find those, you can just search them up. Ooh. Where are they? Oh, okay, my laptop is having a bit of a meltdown, so we shall leave it to do its thing, and maybe we'll talk about restriction rules in another video. But hopefully this was a good introduction to you for org-wide defaults. There's no need to be intimidated by them, all right, but they're under sharing settings. Make sure that you jump in, you have a play around, and you test it, because once you've done it once, it's going to make the world of a difference for you when it comes to designing the security of your Salesforce org. So all the best, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.